to yet another reading from the Dragon Within Saga, Book 1, Convergence. And again, we're going to be continuing in Chapter 2 and getting into the second of his memory that he attributes as one of the defining moments of developing his hate. So here we go. As a direct result of the episode of the old man being beaten to death, and in no small part to the urging of the tugging within, he began speaking out against the injustices he witnessed. At first, this was a silent self-admission of what someone should say. He would often be seen sitting alone at dinner or under a tree, or just standing with a blank stare upon his face. During these times of isolation, he would relive the memory, and instead of staying silent, when confronted by the beast in the street, he would say what he felt to say. He would say what felt right. This reenactment of events was, most of the time, audible. Varying in volume from a whisper to screaming, he would verbalize everything from faint grunts to full sentences, and shortly thereafter, the words produced his desired actions. When in the immersed completeness of his horrific recollection, the nudging would grant him the sight to evade the coming backhand and then lash out with a strike of his own. This made him feel good. This made him feel accomplished. The action of completing his desired vengeance upon the beast made the pain diminish and his smiles return, even if it was only in his wishful memory. These actions did not go altogether unnoticed, nor were they misleading in their intention. Very few, if any, and including the denizens of both the surrounding community as well as the orphanage, did not know the full measure of what had happened that awful day. Fueling his internal sense of injustice were the dozens or so witnesses who watched from their places of apathetic peace. They watched and they had done nothing. Not one felt the urge to intercede for either the old homeless man or the young orphan boy. He blamed himself for staying frozen with fear resulting in his inability to intercede. Not until the atrocity had completed did he gain the defiance necessary to pass the point of an action plunging him into courage. No, not courage, because in his moment of action he felt no fear, but into hate. Hate had allowed his actions to manifest, so he would access this hate in order to atone for what he did not do and for what it allowed him to feel, regardless of who was around to observe his fits of rage. During the weeks and months following, he was befriended by a boy about 2 years older than he was. Perhaps this boy had been through a similar event at the hands of the owner and wanted to help another unfortunate soul from reaping the harvest of the beast and his hate. Or perhaps he too was looking to compensate for doing nothing when he should have acted. No doubt, and at the very least, he had felt the camaraderie shared by another who also suffered from both the physical and emotional sting of the irrational and explosive anger as fists turned from tools to weapons. So, during a particularly vocal episode when all the other children turned away to return to their activities after shifting their postures so they could no longer bear visual witness, the older boy boldly went up to him and placed his hand firmly yet compassionately on the younger boy's shoulder. Spinning with a quickness as if to deliver a fatally planned attack, the younger boy drew his own hand back and used it to dislodge the older boy's. Seeing the wild look in his eyes, the older boy stepped back, drew both hands up beside him and said, "Hey, I was just looking for someone to go on a walk with me. You want to come? I heard there was a really cute puppy a couple doors down. Want to come see?" There was a short silence as he unresponsively stood facing the invitation, with seemingly no more understanding than an untrained animal might face his trainer's initial request. "You want to come? You know, puppy?" urged the older boy a second time. Again he returned to silence, except now his raised hand was beginning to slowly lower in unison with the relaxation of his facial muscles. "Yeah, that is it. Let us go see that puppy. This way, follow me. I do not know how much longer it will be outside." And with that, the older boy darted outside expecting to be followed. And he was. On this first of many followings, he was introduced to a small and playful puppy that belonged to a rather unsuccessful merchant selling what must have been poorly made clothing. During all the times he and his new friend had visited the puppy, he never saw more than a couple people within the store walls. Yet the merchant, a woman about half as old as the owner of the orphanage, always seemed to be in a good mood. While the beast made a standing argument of how his only chance at obtaining any degree of wealth would be by selling his business, or by selling all of the young, ungrateful dorchlings to the slavers of the great desert, she maintained an aura of contentment. What began as short visits to the puppy developed into longer and longer periods of play, ranging anywhere from executing innocent tricks on the other merchant shop owners to fantastic battles between the forces of good and the forces of evil. As these adventures became more and more frequent with a corresponding increase in duration, his episodes of isolation and reenactment of past events became less so in both number and intensity. When one's mind is occupied by the current moment's endeavor, there is no room to give rise to the recollection of that which is done and gone. As such, there is less influence from that which is no more, and consequently there becomes more opportunity for growth and change. Though he was not aware of it at the time, everyone else could see it. What started as adventures for two grew into adventures for many because the surrounding dark clouds fixed to his mind were no longer casting their rain, losing their thunder, or striking their lightning upon his already damaged soul to the observation of those around him. He still had nightmares of the horrific day and would oftentimes wake screaming and wet from sweat, but they were confined to the night and no longer presented themselves as episodes encroaching upon the waking hours. Such as this was, he began to make friends, and he began to be a kid. And the beast noticed, and the beast hated. You see, the owner of the orphanage hated everything that was a source of enjoyment for his tenants. He called them such because doing so removed the veil of he taking care of them and reminded them that everything they received by his hand was done so only if they paid the price. And anything that infringed upon this understanding could potentially plant a seed of entitlement within them that, if watered and tended, would grow into the plants of disobedience and rebellion, ultimately a sign of disrespect. And he would tolerate no such thing. We are going to stop right there as we continue in chapter 2. Thanks again for coming, listening, and checking out the book. I enjoyed it. Thanks for sponsoring. You guys are awesome and amazing. I love each and every one of you. And until we meet again, until we read more, have a wonderful day. And you know what? Always release your dragon within. Thank you very much.